Welcome to News 9. You are watching On Point with me and I am Tarique Rahman. On the show today, we decode and discuss threadbare the Bangladesh election, who will be the new Prime Minister of our neighbour and what it means for New Delhi. And now let's take a quick look at the headlines. The Ministry of External Affairs has clarified India has received an invitation from the United States to join the Board of Peace and we are currently reviewing it. In a major defence boost, Defence Acquisition Council clears deals for 114 Rafale fighter jets for the Indian Air Force and 6 P-8I patrol aircraft for the Navy ahead of Macron's visit. Former Chief Justice B.R. Gawai briefs Joint Parliamentary Committee on One Nation, One Poll Bill, says the bill does not violate the basic structure of the Constitution, will only make a one-time change in the election process. In a major update in the Kanpur Lamborghini case, accused brat Shivam Mishra gets bail on a personal bond of Rs 20,000. UN report flags Jaish-e-Mohammed's role in the Delhi Red Fort blast. Report links Jaish to a series of attacks, including car bombing near Red Fort in November last year that killed 15 people in the capital. Voting ends across 299 constituencies in Bangladesh and counting of votes begin. Now, Bangladesh has been without an elected Prime Minister for the last 18 months. Since 2024 coup, the country has been governed under an interim arrangement led by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus. On Feb 12th, Bangladesh conducted its 13th general election. Polling was held across 299 constituencies in what is being described as the country's most consequential vote in decades. The election is unique. And why? Because this defines post-Khaleda Zia and Sheikh Hasina era. For the first time in years, voters are not choosing between the two Begums. Khaleda Zia is no more and Sheikh Hasina is in India. The era of the political binary appears to be over. Instead, Bangladesh is looking at a new set of power centers. Let me introduce the 5 faces who could emerge as Prime Minister of Bangladesh. And when I say Prime Minister, I mean these are the people in the forefront. They can also be kingmakers. I'll start with Tarique Rahman, son of late Khaleda Zia, former Prime Minister of Bangladesh. He is the chairman of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. He returned after 17 years exile in London, seen as the natural political heir to BNP's legacy. He has redefined the BNP's manifesto in which there is an element of engagement with India. Now, Shafiqur Rahman, that's the Islamist face of Bangladesh. He leads a 111 party alliance, an 11 party alliance anchored by Jamaat-e-Islami. And it represents the country's largest organized Islamist bloc. If successful, this could be the first time an Islamist formation heads Bangladesh. Now I'll come to Nahid Islam, a prominent face of the 2024 coup. And I use this word coup. I don't use this word uprising. He's associated with the Gen Z mobilization that reshaped Bangladeshi politics. He served as an advisor under the Yunus interim government, backed strongly by the younger voters, aligned with Jamaat's coalition structure. Sophisticated face of the Islamists. Another name is Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir. General Secretary of the BNP, considered a consensus builder within party rank, could emerge as a compromise candidate, particularly if the July Charter complicates Tarique Rahman's pathway. A long shot, but nonetheless. And then Syed Rezaul Karim. He's an Islamic scholar and chief of the Islami Andolan Bangladesh. Commands significant religious influence, may play kingmaker in the event of a fractured mandate or hung parliament. Now, beyond personalities, there is something even more significant. Alongside parliamentary voting, Bangladeshis are also participating in a referendum on the so-called July Charter, an ambitious reform blueprint that could reshape the country's constitutional architecture. So what is this charter about? Basically, it's a proposal for 2 5-year terms for the Prime Minister. It also talks of bicameralism with a 100-member upper house, like India has a lower house and an upper house, Lok Sabha and Raj Sabha. Greater judicial and electoral independence, restoration of the caretaker government framework for the future polls. Now, if approved, these reforms could fundamentally alter how power is structured and transferred in Bangladesh. So tonight, I ask this question: is this the beginning of a new political order in Dhaka, or this is the coup dressed up in the language of democracy in polls? On this issue, I am joined by Barrister Mohibul Hasan Chaudhry, former Education Minister of Bangladesh. Thank you so much, sir. Ambassador Veena Sikri, former High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh. Thank you, madam. Professor Swaran Singh from the School of International Studies, JNU. Thank you, sir. And Suhas Chakma, Director, Rights and Risk Analysis Group. Thank you so much, Suhas, for joining me. Let me straight away go to Ambassador Veena Sikri. Opening comments from you, madam. Is this a historic change that is taking place in Dhaka, or a change or a coup dressed up in the larger facade of polls and democracy?
This is a continuation of the 2024 regime change operation. They're trying to legitimize that regime change operation through these fake elections, which were just completed today. We do know, at least the reports from Dhaka are, that voting could have been as low as 25%. There were reports all day from across Bangladesh that the voting percentage is exceedingly low, even though they declared it to be 42%, and now by the end they will have 60-70%. We know that there is this huge aspect of the voting percentage being very, very low. So that's why the same aspect on which they were criticizing Sheikh Hasina in the 2024 election, in fact, the same British High Commissioner who is presently there was doing that in 24. And now in this time, they're accepting that you can have an election without the participation of the single largest party, which is the Awami League.
Okay.
Which is, again, a very a non-constitutional aspect which is there. And there is absolutely no reason why the Awami League should have been not allowed. And I think that's why the election should not be recognized. I think we have seen Sheikh Hasina's statement. She has put out a very strong statement on the elections, and she's recognized. The Awami Leaguers have stayed away. The minorities have stayed away. People have been sitting at home, so they're not going to accept this election result when they know they were sitting at home and not voting. How are they going to accept the election result? The referendum is another, really a charade, because there are these, originally there were 84 questions. Now they brought it down to just 4 sectors. And you have to give one yes or no vote to all of that.
Okay.
And the ballot box, the ballot paper for the referendum has no serial numbering. So there can just be unlimited printing, and you can just take it immediately that there's a yes vote.
Okay.
Now, if yes vote, they will want to change the constitution. And you know what? Tarique Rahman has already changed his point of view twice. You mentioned about him. He said in the beginning, I'm going to vote no on the referendum. Then he changed it to yes after pressure from the West and from ISI. Then he said in the beginning that I will never form a unity government. I will be on my own. Today he has just said that I'm ready to be in a coalition. So obviously these election results are shaky, and I think they're going to declare some kind of a unity government to keep Yunus as president.
Okay, let me go across to Barrister Mohibul Hasan Chaudhry. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me. I know Awami League has not been able to participate, but my question to you is, what do you foresee? Do you think that BNP is a front runner in this whatever election that has taken place today?
See, the BNP leadership is also concerned about the result itself, because there are reports from different very reliable sources that Yunus is trying to artificially show that Jamaat-e-Islami has won almost as many as BNP seats, and whether the winning side will be allowed to form the executive part of the government. So BNP is still not settled. The election itself was part of a negotiated settlement between the stakeholders who were involved in the regime change operation. They wanted some kind of an exit for the interim regime and also to justify the things that they were doing. You will note just 3 days before the election, they had signed an they have signed an agreement with United States where Bangladesh, given the situation that we are facing economically, where there is a huge foreign currency crisis, there is a major revenue collection problem, economy is in absolute mess. They have promised to buy Boeing aircrafts, which are not really needed. They have promised to buy wheat from United States, cotton from United States. And there's a list of things that they have done whilst in government. And now, through this referendum and this election, they're asking for a safe exit and a continuing stake in decision making.
Okay.
So if you look at one of the key proposals here, which is not almost, exactly like how Pakistan is ruled, that president can dismiss a parliament, an elected parliament. A selected president who will be taken up through the vote of the parliamentarians will have the right to dismiss a parliament, an entire elected parliament, as is the case in Pakistan. So the constitutional framework, they want to make it exactly like Pakistan, just like how Pakistan has a Senate. There is this upper house which has been proposed, but people have not been consulted. People do not know what are these changes. There are 84 constitutional changes that has been proposed, and people have only been asked to say yes or no. And the entire yes-no game is just a sham process to just legitimize whatever they have done. And but going forward, at least right now, a lot of people in Bangladesh do feel a sense of relief, in a sense that at least we don't have to see Yunus for a long period of time. But then again, they don't know that Yunus has already hatched a plan to keep his grip in power through the presidency, through this so-called 180 days period as Constituent Assembly, when all these proposed amendments will have to be passed in the parliament. So the country is going towards a constitutional anarchy. And if we have chaos, constitutional chaos and anarchy, these vested interests, without any political legitimacy, without any mandate from the people, will continue to exert their influence and power in decision making.
Okay.
So it's a new beginning, but a chaotic a chaotic beginning towards constitutional anarchy.
Okay, Professor Swaran Singh, what does it mean for India's national security?
I think the fundamental challenge for India's national security comes from at least two fronts. One, that the landscape of political narratives have fundamentally changed. I heard when you said 5 names of possible prime ministers, you included Mufti Rezaul Karim also, who's chief of Islami Andolan. So Jamaat-e-Islami is not the only radical conservative Islamist force to reckon with. And therefore, I think that radicalization of discourse, including, as Ambassador Sikri just mentioned, of Tarique Rahman initially being reluctant about July Charter, finally being made to say yes. So there is enormous shift from what used to be a very liberal political landscape, with the two Begums dominated in the politics, as we keep saying, for 3 decades nearly. Only case where 50 seats of Jatiya Sansad were meant only for women to be nominated on proportional representation basis, to now such extreme radicalization. And second, of course, very clearly is enormous substantial deceleration of Bangladesh that was being seen under Sheikh Hasina as a model of economic development in South Asia. So both these radicalization and deceleration would directly impact on relations with India, on whether people will flow over to try to come to Indian side, and that could disrupt bilateral relations increasingly. And how to deal with that is a major challenge. Even if India has made overtures of foreign minister going there recently, but if entire landscape is getting radicalized and economic deceleration is creating turmoil and unrest on the ground, all the major issues that voters wanted in this election is about inflation control, end of corruption, jobs, infrastructure. Now, if radicalization is the path in Bangladesh now, I'm not sure how that resurgence of economic development is going to be revived, because I think that economic resources are going to go in very different direction in that sense.
Okay.
And radicalization would mean advantage Pakistan, advantage China. United States, in fact, is already making an assessment, and that partly is the reason why they signed that trade deal just 3 days before elections, because influence of Pakistan and China is definitely going to increase, even if BNP, which is the initial trends are clearly saying that out of about 50 constituencies where trends are visible, BNP is supposed to be leading in about 30 of such constituencies. And JMI is lagging far behind right now, about 12 seats or so. So in that sense, if the overall landscape is getting radicalized, economy is getting decelerated, initial internal turmoil inside Bangladesh is not going to disappear very soon, and that is not a good news for India, both in terms of relationship and security.
Okay, Suhas, I'm not going to ask the usual question to you on the minorities. I'm not going to ask that question. What happened? I'm going to ask you today, why is Bangladesh hurtling towards Islamism?
It has always been there, not today. And if you look at the history of the East Bengal, prior to that, undivided Bengal from 1800 onwards. So it has always been there. We cannot deny the fact that religion plays an important role for our identity. So Bangladesh, I think, has been going through this for a long period of time. I think what we had seen is that initially or throughout the history, the Bengal part of Islam, Islam in Bengal was completely different from other parts of South Asia or undivided India. They were much more liberal, accommodative, and I think, despite disagreement on many issues, I think Prime Minister Hasina tried to ensure that there is at least some space for, liberalism, people with other identities, etc. And that has been, completely destroyed this time. And the identity politics in Bangladesh showing sometimes they are very Bengali about their identity. Sometimes they identify with their languages. Then sometimes they identify themselves absolutely based on religious identity. And I think this is the time for them to identify based on religious identity, or partly also because India, we are a Hindu majority country, and because the Awami League is there, we have been supporting the Awami League, rightly so, because if the Awami League is not there, then I think for us as a country, our existence also would be in question. If you cannot support a political party which brought independence, which has been a partner, if we do not support them, then where would the Awami League go? I think my fear at this point of time, beyond the religious identification, that this religious identification is not going to go away. So they are going to harp on the religious fundamentalism, anti-Indianism, and they have created a situation from where they cannot come out of it. Now, for example, if you lift the ban on Awami League, there will be massive outcry. Possibly there will be so much violence, the government itself will be overthrown. So which political party in Bangladesh, whether it's Jamaat-e-Islami or the or the BNP, will dare to lift the ban on Awami League? Now, if you do not lift the ban on the Awami League, you are depriving political rights to about 40 to 50% of the population, even at this point of time, which will increase over the period of time. So we have, I think, a situation which, just to, compliment what Professor Singh had mentioned, then I think we have to bear in mind that this is a government which will continue in this kind of a situation for the time till they are overthrown.
Okay. So
that's going to be, until then they are going to harp only on one issue, Islamic identity. Even if people do not believe in, they will still continue with it just
Okay.
to show their, anger or their opposition to India. So that's going to happen.
Another side of this coin, or the part of the same argument, is when the conservatism rise in societies, women also disappear. Ambassador Sikri, women have disappeared. This is a country which had 2 women prime ministers. They dominated the politics of Bangladesh for more than a quarter of a century, maybe 30 years, more than that. Why have women candidates disappear? I mean to say, we can have a so-called quick journalistic approach to a thing, okay, this Islamism is on rise. But I mean to say, it has to be nourished at the level of society. It has to be nourished at the level of day-to-day activities. That is why we see that suddenly women have disappeared in elections in Bangladesh, madam. When you were there as India's High Commissioner, did you notice it?
Not at all. I think that the presence of women has been one of the most dynamic parts of life in Bangladesh. And when I was there as High Commissioner, when
Okay, I think there's a bit of a problem with Ambassador Sikri's line. Barrister Chaudhary, can you take this question? Where have women disappeared in Bangladesh?
You see, Bangladesh remains a liberal society, a liberal country. The problem is that a quarter of the army, the civil service, and certain foreign stakeholders are colluding to establish the extremists, the Islamists, and only the extremists of the Islamists in the institutions of the state. If tomorrow the country holds a completely free and fair and participatory election, the Islamists will not even get more than 15% of the total vote share. The only reason now they're able to flex their muscle is because certain institutions of the state are sponsoring them, are assisting them. So it is a state-sponsored Islamism that we are seeing there. Majority of the people have rejected them in each and every election. And now these institutions, individuals from there, are making comments like, oh, the liberal parties have failed. They had been all corrupt. There was no development. Let us see the Islamists. And this has come from the army chief himself. He has said that to the wider audience several times. And the problem is, the whole rise of Islamism in Bangladesh is now, a lot of us feel that it's a spontaneous, voluntary thing. It is not. It is being assisted by the government, the intelligence services, at the behest of Pakistan's ISI, who are very present in Bangladesh. They want to create another wing of Pakistan on that part of the, in our part of the world.
Mr. Chaudhary, a lot of journalists who went from Delhi, in Dhaka, they said there were no posters of Awami League. There has been no pushback from secular parties like you also on the streets, if I may take a position of a devil's advocate.
It's not just the Awami League. The Jatiya Party is effectively out of the race. They had not been allowed to take part in many of the seats. The several independent candidates, one of the prominent being Barrister Rumin Farhana, who was from the BNP, but she stood as an independent candidate, very vocal on women's rights and very liberal progressive politician. But today we can't find her in the race because the machineries of the state, they were after her agents, did not even allow them to stand. So whatever we are seeing today, it has nothing to do with what people want, but how the state is acting and reacting.
Absolutely. Professor Swaran Singh, a lot of sociologists would say that the modernization has killed the cultural codes, it created religious uniformities across the world. But, the larger issue here is that it has indeed subordinated the Bangladeshi identity to the larger Islamic identity. This is something which cannot be set aside. Are we witnessing desecularization of Bangladeshi society in the same breadth and length that we witnessed 10 years ago when Erdogan took power in Turkey? Is that being repeated in Bangladesh? Though it took a different process, he jumped into the electoral bus and did away with all the democratic concessions, Erdogan. Here, the same thing is happening. like Muslim Brotherhood, you know, when Sisi came to power, they all jump into the bandwagon of democracy and then they dismantle what democracy stands for.
Absolutely, Karthik. I'm happy you brought this point up because I was hearing Suhas say that Islamic identity has always been there. But the way I understood the liberation of Bangladesh when I was a young student, I understood that the Bengali identity was much stronger compared to Islamic identity, and that is why East Pakistan decided to become a separate independent country. And therefore, Bengali identity also subsumes the fact that, you know, there is enormous empowerment of women, there's enormous liberal, literary, educated culture that we have known. Indeed, in entire East and West Pakistan, the initial communism was emerging only in East Pakistan, which is Bangladesh. So you're right that fundamental liberal identity of Bangladesh, where women could feel empowered and equal, that seems to be, you know, reversing itself into a far more theocratically driven Islamic identity, which is coming to the forefront. I agree it's a possibility that, you know, these could not be as important and as powerful as they appear to be sometimes, because radical voices catch greater attention and media covers that kind of shrill noise. But the fact that across party lines, that is what I'm saying, not only just the parties that are Islamic parties, you made mention of, for example, Nahid Islam, also fundamentally a modern but fundamentally conservative voice of youth of the National Citizen Party that was created early last year, I think in January. So that fundamental drift of rapidly growing, developing, liberal Bangladesh, with which India was perfectly at home, and India was having excellent relationship with that kind of power elite, that is reversing. And I think the silent non-presence of large number of voters, and that is why the low voting that is happening, as we are seeing, is a reflection of, you know, large number of people. In fact, most people are saying that the elderly people generally are not, you know, trusting the interim government, is not trusting the elections, whereas the conservative and youth is relatively perhaps inclined to go in that kind of refrain that we notice now. So yes, there is a fundamental drift, according to me, in the political landscape in Bangladesh.
Absolutely. Ambassador Sikri, good to have you back. You know, do you think that, you know, this reversal, what we witnessed, is the main strand of the Bangladeshi politics? Like, you know, a lot of sociologists say that what we witnessed between 1991 and 2014 in India was an exception, which is coalition politics. But the larger political structure of India is a unitary status, in the sense one big dominant party and number of regional parties and small parties. So from that context, from that political standpoint of view, madam, do you think that this is the larger rubric of the Bangladeshi politics, and what we witnessed in the last 25 years was a sheer exception to the movement where Bengalis felt they are being subjugated by the dominant Pakistani identity, but the basic strand remained the same because Mujibur himself was part of Awami League?
No, I don't agree. No, I don't agree at all. I think Bangladesh is a very dynamic political environment, and I don't agree with Mr. Saran saying that it's a definitive move towards radicalization. No, because I think even now, even during the last 18 months, there have been at least 2 occasions when the women and the men from the universities have erupted on the streets. You know, Yunus tried to put this, he said, I'm going to have music and dance teachers. Jamaat-e-Islami forced him to cancel that, and the women came on the streets. And recently, the Amir of Jamaat-e-Islami said something very derogatory about women. And the women came on the streets. The women are saying, the men are saying, culture and religion are 2 sides of the same coin. That is what Bangladesh wants. That's all of South Asia recognizes that your cultural identity is important and your religious identity is important. What the Jamaat-e-Islami is trying to do is to push through a purely religious identification. Okay. And they're being supported by Pakistan on that, because Pakistan has done that in Pakistan, and they're trying to do the same thing in Bangladesh. So actually, India has a huge constituency in Bangladesh, at least 50%. 40% definitely, I think the Awami Leaguers would basically accept, a constitution which has democracy and nationalism and secularism and social justice. But also beyond that, there are people who may not support the Awami League, who may not support Sheikh Hasina, but they support the values of the liberation war. We have to recognize that. We have to recognize that this 50% constituency is there. We have to continue to work with them. We have to continue to work with the constituency that is the most friendly towards India. You cannot accept what Jamaat-e-Islami is trying to do. The people of Bangladesh are resisting. How can we not be part of that? I'm surprised how we can just accept, oh, no, it's going to be like that from now on. No, it's not. The people of Bangladesh are resisting. They voted with their feet today by not going to the polling booth, by indicating their displeasure at this kind of constitutional, anarchy that they want. So I think that the Bangladesh liberal thought is alive. We have to look for it, work with it, and develop it, and support it.
Professor Swaran, 30 seconds. I really need to, take a break.
Just one quick point: out of 2,000 candidates contesting, women candidates are less than 80. If the women have not disappeared from political landscape, then what else?
It is less than 4% today, but it was never been like that before. Just because the Jamaat-e-Islami is imposing this norm and everybody is following it, doesn't mean you to fall for it. No, we can't do that. We can't give up like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Bangladesh is a very dear friend. The people of Bangladesh are our dear friends. We cannot give up on them.
Okay, absolutely.
I'm very strong on this point.
I don't think anyone would disagree with you, madam, that, people of Bangladesh are dear friends of India, and we must support them in their hour of crisis. Thank you all of you for joining me, because on the other side, we will pick up a different point of discussion, and that is what happens to the legacy of 1971. But after a short break.
Associate sponsor Bandhan Mutual Fund.
रश्मि, ये मैडम बड़े शहर से छोटे शहर बसने जा रही है, बताओ। छोटे छोटे शहरों में ही तो है बड़े बड़े अखाड़े, नए नए दावपेच सीखेगी और फ्यूचर में मेडल जीतेगी। पर बेटा, इनका फ्यूचर?
बड़े पापा, SBI लाइफ से इनका फ्यूचर सिक्योर है।
अभी तो इसकी जीत का इरादा पक्का है। करो पूरे अपने इरादे, अपनों से किए सभी वादे। SBI लाइफ अपने लिए, अपनों के लिए।
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कर आता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
Indian Racing Festival, only on Star Sports and Jio Hotstar.
When Trump captures Maduro, News 9 breaks it first.
It's happening far away, but it has tremendous consequence for the world.
What happens next?
Biggest international headline of the hour.
The US has conducted military strikes.
This is the Venezuelan president.
Maduro faces multiple charges, including narco-terrorism.
This is Maduro being taken to the New York court.
Donald Trump indicated that Greenland might be next.
Where will Donald Trump stop?
A dramatic U.S. operation, power shifts in Venezuela. High-stakes geopolitics unfolding. What does this mean for Venezuela? What does it mean for the world? And what comes next? On point with the facts, unmissable insights. In your interest always. Fastest alerts, hard facts, 360-degree analysis. From breaking news to deep dives, when the world changes, News 9 leads. News 9, always on top.
Welcome to our coverage of the Bangladesh polls, and we were discussing who's going to be the next Prime Minister of Bangladesh. The counting has begun, and very soon the details of the trends will be out. But we are not in the business of prejudging who is going to win this election, whether there is going to be a national unity government or whether BNP is going to sweep the election. But the fact of the matter is that the legacy of 1971, what happened in 1971, is being reversed in Bangladesh. We don't call it an uprising, we call it a coup. because the political party has been barred from contesting elections. Women participation has gone down. The persecution of minorities have broken all record in Bangladesh. Bangladesh has become closer to Pakistan, a state which is responsible for globally sponsoring terrorism. On all these issues, what is going to be the fate of Bangladesh? Is it going to become another Afghanistan, another Iran, another Turkey, or is it going to stay the course like India? I'm joined by Salahuddin Shoaib Chaudhry, editor Blitz Bangladesh. He joins live from Dhaka. Thank you so much. I'm joined by Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee, author and former Indian diplomat. Thank you so much, ma'am. It's always a pleasure to have you on my show. And I'm also joined by Suhas Chakma, Director Rights and Risk Analysis Group. And subsequently, I'll be joined by Major General Rajan Kochar. But let me straight away go to Ambassador Mukherjee. Madam, my question to you is, what happens to the legacy of 1971?
Well, the legacy of 1971, Karthikeyan, it's great to be on your show, included the development of the Bengali dream, that culture, language, civilization, theatre, food, everything that is core of being Bengali is more important to what was then East Pakistan than religion. And it was on that dream that Bangladesh was founded. That is the legacy of 1971. That is the legacy based on which Bengalis from different religions, Hindus, Sufis, Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, all stayed back. I have so many relatives living in Bangladesh after 71, when they went back, and I said, why do you want to go back? They said, we love this country. We love the hilsa. We love the smell and the sound of what my parents called, because they were born and brought up in Dhaka, Bikrampur. I come from East Bengal, that never visited Bangladesh. And they used to tell me what it was all about. That was the legacy of 1971, which you, as you so appropriately indicated, Karthikeya, is in the process of being reversed. Because it's not just a question of getting cozy with Pakistan. Pakistan perpetrated the genocide, the rape of women, regardless of their religion, the horrible murders in Dhaka University, which is where my parents studied, and the whole destruction of Bengal's syncretic culture. And now you have the collaborators forming a political party. Those collaborators are in the Jamaat, and we are looking at a situation where who knows what is going to happen as the result of the election. But if you ask me, has the legacy of 1971 been destroyed? I would say not yet.
Okay.
Because it's not so difficult to destroy the culture of an entire nation. So I am hopeful things will get reversed.
Okay, before I go to Salahuddin Shoaib Chaudhry, let me just straight away go to Suhas Chakma. There's an old saying, first the extremists will come for the poets. First, the extremists will come for the poets. So, when they came for the poets with the machetes 15 years ago, 10 years ago, don't you think that the state failed?
The state has always failed. I mean, I will only cite the case of the known minority indigenous groups who are distinctly different. That's the Chittagong tracks. So if you look the manifesto of the BNP and the Jamaat-e-Islami, so they have very clearly said that once they form the government, they will do away with the Chittagong-Huntrix Accord signed in 1997. And we may agree, disagree, but that has been the an instrument for ending insurgency in that region. Now they are going to destroy it completely. And I would say when the CHT Accord was signed, and people had hopes in the Accord, and the Accord itself, when its constitutionality was challenged, and the High Court bench of the Dhaka, of the Bangladesh Supreme Court, they said establishment of the regional council was unconstitutional. That judgment came in 2010. And from 2010 till the end of the government, actually the hearing never took place. So the peace process which was there, the state did not defend the agreement it signed. So it has left at that, and now we have basically the people who never wanted peace in that region and completely Islamized that region. They, they do not give any space to the minorities.
Okay.
So if you ask me, state has failed. Of course, state has failed because it's in the interest of the Bangladesh that you have peace in the Chittagong Hill Tracts. And of course, the Chittagong Hill Tracts people, so long they are in a sizable majority, they are 50% of the population now, they will fight back not because they want to fight, but they don't want to destroy their own religious identities, cultural identities. They just want to preserve, or they want to live the way they are. And so if you ask me, the state has failed repeatedly, even with respect to, say, for example, Enemy Properties Act. When the the Return of the Enemy Properties Act was enacted, it was not fully implemented in letter and spirit. It was not done in 1971 because in 1965, after the war, Indo-Pakistan war, the Enemy Properties Act was brought in. So all the lands of the Hindus were taken.
Okay.
So after independence, the land should have been returned, but it was never returned. So state has, I think, failed to stand up, and that's why we are facing this terrible situation where we like or dislike. This is the BNP and Jamaat are basically two sides of the same coin of the Islamic fundamentalists.
Okay, Mr. Shoaib Chaudhary, what are you looking at? BNP sweeps, are you looking at sort of their word, national unity government, coalition government? What is going to happen? Well, I know you're not a soothsayer, but sort of a general assessment.
Thank you very much, sir. First of all, the most stunning and shocking information is, in a very large number of states until now, Jamaat-e-Islami is having a massive lead in comparing to BNP, which is impossible, number one. Number two, the entire day the voter turnout was very slow, but suddenly in 1 hour, 25 million votes were cast. 25 million in 1 hour. Quite impossible. Number three, this is for the first time in the history of Bangladesh. Pakistan sent a massive size of media team. And my people have spoken to them. They said, we have come here to celebrate. And finally, after casting his vote, Yunus said, this is a grand Eid. And he said, from today, all past histories are deleted. So Bangladesh is killed today. Bangladesh and Bengalis and the spirit of the war of independence of my country and the secularism, everything is killed. And we have become a dead nation.
Okay, let me play out the bite of Shafiqur Rahman.
For me, for Bangladesh. For you and for Bangladesh. Yes, it is a turning point. And we are waiting for that point, inshallah. People demand change, they desire change. We also desire the change. Alhamdulillah, it is an emerging matter for me because I have given my vote after 3 consecutive votes where I was been deprived. Not me only, all the people of Bangladesh, and that time I was in the prison. Thank you.
So, Ambassador Mukherjee, what sort of change is Bangladesh going to witness?
As I said, a region which comes from 1,500 years of civilization cannot be just changed like that. What happens is that if fundamentalist jihadis take over Bangladesh, as is being predicted by one of my co-panelists, and I admire him for his courage. He's in Bangladesh and saying all this. I pray to God that he remains safe, nothing happens to him. But you can't change Bengalis overnight. I'm telling you. I am what you call a proper Bengali from that part of the world. You can't change overnight. You can try. But these are people difficult to brainwash. What happens is, when it comes to Bengali dissidents, they just go underground. That way, they're quite similar to the way Mao Zedong won the Chinese Revolution. They will go underground and they will wait their chance. In any case, there are 1.5 crore Hindus alone in Bangladesh. They have nowhere to go. As far as the Chittagong Hill Tracts is concerned, The greatest mistake was made in 1947 when the Congress party map showed, and I've written it in my Bengal partition book, that Chittagong hill tracts should go to East Pakistan. Chittagong hill tracts always belonged to India. It should never have Pakistan because it was never Muslim majority. So many historic blunders were committed by many people on many sides. But today, Bangladesh is at the crossroads. The results of the election will indicate whether it will descend into civil wars, open civil wars, or dissidents will go underground and fight back. But so, that it will definitely be changed into a jihadi nation overnight.
General Kocher, do you think that the Bangladesh as a state will be able to absorb all these changes? I mean, say a lot of countries absorb changes, but a lot of countries do not, and then it leads to fission. What is your assessment?
Okay, thank you, Karthikeyan. I've actually listened to all the panelists. First of all, we are trying to be too judgmental on Bangladesh. Leave it to the people of Bangladesh to decide what they want for them. That is my first point. Second is there is a referendum also taking place, and it's very important to understand why this referendum is taking place, because it is going to dictate the future of Bangladesh. Because whatever parties are coming into power, it may be a fractured one, most likely a BNP or a Jamaat, none of them may get a majority, and like earlier times, they'll be together. And they will have this referendum if the referendum is yes, because most likely, if I see, because free and fair elections in Bangladesh, I think, is a very low probability. I think my, Shoaib is there, and I've come on with him on a number of programs. He will bear with me that we don't expect a free and a fair election in Bangladesh. If that is the case, a referendum will be thrust on the people of Bangladesh, and I think the people of Bangladesh have the resilience. In the last about 18 months, when Muhammad Yunus has been in power, we have not seen too much of turbulence in Bangladesh, and I want to be bipartisan in this. I don't want to take any sides, because people in Bangladesh, why they don't like the Indians is because we tend to be trying to dictate to them, and you know how they should behave. With regard to the Hindus, you see, you have to understand that they are Bangladeshis first. It is the responsibility of the government of the day to ensure their safety. And if these Hindus are not being secure there, or the people who are standing for elections, I would like to someone to tell me that how many Hindus are standing for elections, because that will be a pointer. If we think that there is a secularity in Bangladesh, the results will also tell us that what is the proportion of Hindus. Already we have seen that only 83.
General Kocher, the larger issue is, are Hindus being allowed to stand for this election? Shoaib, are they getting a fair chance to stand for these elections?
This election is, I have told in your show previously, this is a stage drama, and for that reason, Europe has brought 500 foreign observers who were provided air ticket, hotel accommodation, and pocket money. So they are going to endorse this as a free and fair election, and the Yunus allies, European Union and others. But sitting in Dhaka, I can say it was a grand mockery that in 1 hour, 25 million votes casted in 1 hour. It is all impossible. So this is a big fun, but the problem is that through this election or whatever stage drama, my country has lost everything. Bengali nation has
Yunus
lost
cut a deal,
its pride,
sir? Has Yunus cut a deal?
Celebrate.
Has Yunus cut a deal? Will he be around after the elections?
He will, because this referendum, he has won yes votes definitely, And Yunus is not going to leave power. He will become the supreme leader for sure. Yunus is not the easy guy that he will leave so easily. There should be a massive revolt against him. People should come on the street, not only PNP, all other parties. One day it will happen. Bengalis will come to street, and then in Bangladesh, Americans will face the same fate or worse fate that they faced in Vietnam. Okay, because we are Bengalis.
Okay, let me play out one more bite of Muhammad Yunus, since you mentioned his name specifically.
আজকে নতুন বাংলাদেশের জন্মদিন, কাজে আমরা অতীতকে ফেলে দুঃস্বপ্নকে ফেলে এখন নতুন স্বপ্ন চলে গেলাম। আজকে সেই দিন সারা জাতির জন্য, আজকে মুক্তির দিন, সেটা আমরা উৎসব পালন করছি।
স্যার ভোট কেমন দেখছেন স্যার? আজকে ভোটের পরিস্থিতি কেমন দেখছেন স্যার?
এটা ঈদের মতো মহা ঈদ, এটা মহা ঈদের মতো
সুন্দর সুষ্ঠু হচ্ছে কিনা?
খুবই সুন্দর, খুবই সুন্দর। এ পর্যন্ত fantastic. We have a big future coming up. We are just creating new Bangladesh. Bangladesh 2.0.
You know, Sahas, he looks more ecstatic than the 5 guys who can be the Prime Minister, you know. He looks more ecstatic than the contenders for that position, Sahas.
Well, I think he knows he's going to be the president of Bangladesh. Then, as you know, president who would be elected by the members of parliament, he would have the power to dismiss all the parliamentarians, as we had heard earlier, because that's the whole referendum is all about. I just wanted to, little add one more point.
Okay.
The question is, can we allow for a moment the Bangladeshis to decide on their own? If Bangladeshis had decided on their own, if the Americans had not engineered the coup, then Hasina would have been in power even today. Hasina's election, if this election is free and fair, then the elections organized by Hasina were fairer and than the current election, because Hasina did not ban BNP. Here we have a largest political party being banned. So this an election friendly contest between two partners of the same alliance. I think what we have to bear in mind, if we do not say or disown this election, if the government of India says that this is not something which is acceptable, as the Army League had said, then obviously Army League will not be with anybody. There will be no one to support the Army League. We have to have a position, just the way the election which were held by Hasina was not accepted by the West. India has to stand up and say, you cannot have an election without the Army League. You can ban all the politicians of the Army League, all the ministers, including Hasina, Prime Minister Hasina. But you cannot ban a political party, because if you ban a political party, you are denying that democratic space to 40% of the population. Now, where would they go? That's why I believe that because this election, if you look at it, this European Union and all others, they have sent over 500, election observers. And they will be certifying that everything is hunky-dory.
No, I have I have a different question, because I have run out of time and I need to ask this question to General Kocha. The consequence of having 2 theocratic states, we have 3 to deal with. Okay, Afghanistan, I take them out of picture. Pakistan and Bangladesh, what is the consequence for India? I mean, so that's the larger question.
You see, consequences are going to be very, very severe in case. After the elections, the government, whichever comes to Bangladesh, becomes an anti-India government, because the kind of borders we have there, because most of the border is porous there, and it's more than 4,000 kilometers, 4,096 kilometers of border. So I just want to comment on what Suhas has said. You will find the statement of the government of India or the Ministry of External Affairs after the elections, they will welcome the result. They will not contest this result, just because that is the only way. As Karthike asked me, after the outcome of the election, the only way India can mend fences with Bangladesh is to communicate positively with the new government. And if there is an establishment stand by India, I don't think then it will be possible to mend the fences with Bangladesh, and that would be a very important consideration for the government of India.
Okay, I've really run short of time. Thank you all of you, because this is an important election. The outcomes of Bangladesh is very important to us. Thank you, madam. Thank you, General Kocha. Thank you, Shoaib, for joining me. Thank you, Suhas. The consequences of the result will be very, very important to us, because Bangladesh really matters for entire South Asia. India remains the beacon of a sort of democracy, secular democracy in South Asia. And if you look at our surroundings, either we have failed states like Myanmar, or we have state in turmoil like Nepal, or we had a very anti-India state like Maldives. We have Pakistan. We have a constant churn in Afghanistan. Sri Lanka underwent a great social unrest. India remains the only oasis in South Asia. And in case if Bangladesh again becomes problematic in context of the churn, then I would say our choices will get narrowed down. Thank you all of you for joining me on Point tonight. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Thank you and good night.
This isn't a trail of peace. This is pressure overload. A hill built for 1,000, forced to carry lakhs.
Instead of lightening the footprint, you have allowed people to actually get into every nook and corner of the Himalayas.
Careless travel, choking hills. If we don't change now, there won't be much left to enjoy.
We need to follow the Bhutan model, regulate people who can access hills.
News 9 presents Heal the Hills, continuous coverage.